Ooh, these are definitely the wrong slides. Hold on one sec. Sorry about that, Haley. But so for our warm-up question, or actually this is our last day of week 7. So next week will be our last week of gap classes. And so next week we're going to be putting all of our stuff together. So all of the different research plan, personal statements, and any tips and tricks that we have for you also that are in the primer. We're just going to let you know. Oh, this is right. We just didn't change the day. Okay. Well, for our warm-up today, we're going to be talking about favorite researchers. If you have someone in mind that someone like you looked up to or you currently look up to, who is that person and why? This is a bit deeper question. So if you don't have one, like have someone off the top of your head, don't worry.
Okay, yeah, I have to think about it for a little bit.
Okay. I can talk about mine real quick. There's this frog scientist who studies water chemistry in frogs, and this dude ended up finding out that chemicals from I forget what type of factory, but there was a factory upstream of these frogs, and it ended up changing the chemistry of the frogs. So the sexes of the frogs were different, and so some of them were male and female, and it like completely messed up their reproductive systems. And this scientist like went to the factory and was like, "Hey guys, you can't do this. Like this is not cool." The factory had actually hired him to like make sure all the pollution was good, and it wasn't. And then the factory ended up being like, no, you can't publish any of your results actually, because that's bad and we would lose money. Um, so then it like turned into this like a whole legal court, and like the FBI was looking into this dude because he was like looking into pollution. And it's a really cool story. Uh, if you look up like the frog scientist, sometimes it comes up. But yeah, I cannot remember the scientist's name for the life of me. But I have a book on him. He's really cool.
That sounds really interesting. I've never heard of that before.
I feel like I joined in on a very interesting conversation here.
We're just talking during the warm up, talking about researchers that we look up to.
Nice, very good.
Emily, do you have a researcher that you look up to?
So many. Um, I don't know. Can I just say like all women in STEM as a whole?
I would have to agree with Emily, except Elizabeth Holmes. We don't like her.
Oh, yeah, thumbs down.
Yeah.
Why do I know that name? I know that name.
She was the person who had, or she dropped out of Stanford because she created a product that was supposed to read like cancer diagnosis and like all these diagnoses with just a drop of blood. And you were supposed to be able to have the device in your house, in a store, or like even in the military. But then she raised like $80 million, and all these venture capitalists raised so much money with her, but the device never worked, but she never told anyone.
Oh, so she's kind of scammed everyone.
Yeah, she scammed, I think, this venture capitalist that used to work with the president like over $100 million.
Yeah, that's not great. And that just ruins the reputation of others. So love that.
Yeah. And fun fact, that's why there is a wellness center in Walgreens and in Safeway. That's why they have medical, like that's why you can get a flu shot in Safeway because it was made for her product to go in there, but then they had to think of something else.
That's crazy. I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Wow, you learn something new every day. But yes, there are outliers out there, that's for sure. But I met lots of wonderful women in STEM and in consulting today that were very, very cool.
Exciting. They do a bunch of water stuff, huh?
Yeah, the company is like water consultation. So they do a variety of things from just managing, resources to, conservation, and I do all sorts of great things. Um, Especially for us in San Diego, it's kind of a big issue.
Oh my gosh, with the Olympics coming up, like I'm so interested about the Olympics in LA that are gonna happen in like 4 years. Because they have so many different like water plans that are going on. And I obviously I'm not one of the scientists, so I don't know how they're gonna do it. But like I kind of highly doubt some of the stuff that they're saying. I don't know, it seems kind of sketch, but I'm interested to see if it does turn out like what it'll look like.
I think I should want to get like an apartment for the summer, in LA when the Olympics come, so then I can like just kind of be there and not have to deal with the traffic and then go to the Olympics. That'd be kind of sick.
For like the entire summer, yeah. I mean that would not be bad, just chilling in LA for the summer.
Hmm, I like San Diego better.
Okay, but you also don't live as far as I do. Like you could just like drive on it.
Yeah, but it's so busy and hot and it smells and
Yeah.
there's people and
Very true.
cars, smog.
Okay, but it's also in San Diego.
San Diego is not. It's like a relaxed city. We are much smaller and better and more
Okay.
chill than LA.
Fair, fair.
Mhm.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. Well, with that, I think that kind of sums up our researcher talk, even though we got distracted once again. Um, but that is normal.
Maybe it was a good thing I was late. Could have gone through more material without me.
I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna spend so much time on this warm up anyway. It's fine.
Do you want me to do this or okay? So quick agenda for today. We're gonna go over again just a quick review of the research plan, what that entails. We're also gonna do a quick review of what your email should be looking like, because emailing your PIs is a big part of your research plan. The two go hand in hand, and it's a little difficult to kind of finalize your research plan without having an idea on who your potential faculty mentors are going to be, and hopefully having them be a part of developing your research plan. Then we're going to go into kind of some like prep and next steps as you're waiting for emails and your next steps in developing your research plan. And then of course our deliverables and what we're going to be doing next time.
To start us off, we're going to go over a quick review of the research plan. I know we talked a lot about it last time, but it was a lot of information in a super, super short amount of time. So we're just going to review some things. Again, all of this info is also in the primer, and specifically it starts on page 14. So if you hear us say anything and you want to go back to it, again, you have the slides or the primer. But so here's the prompt again. It's really long, but yeah, it's present an original research topic that you would like to pursue in graduate school. Describe the research idea, your general approach, as well as any unique resources that may be needed for accomplishing the research goal. All those things. Include important literature citations, address the potential of the research to advance knowledge and understanding within science, as well as the potential for broader impacts on society. The research discussed must be in the field listed in the solicitation. So again, this is a super long prompt. This breaks down again into those different formats for the broader impact, intellectual merit, and all those good things. Again, if you want us to go more in depth, we have it on the past slides and recording.
And just briefly going over the format of your research plan again. This is going to be 6 main parts. Your research title, which is just going to be the title on your page. Background / problem statement, which will be about a quarter to half a page. Your actual research plan, which includes your methods, hypothesis, all of that. And that'll be closer to a page, page and a quarter. Intellectual merit summary statement. So, what knowledge gap is your project addressing? Why does it matter in the scientific community? That'll be about a quarter of a page. And then your broader impact summary statement. So what is the purpose of this project? What is the impact it will have on society as a whole, not just the scientific community? So, conservation, saving lives, that kind of thing. And that's going to be about a quarter to half a page. So it has a little bit more oomph in it than, the intellectual merit. And then lastly, you'll have your in-text superscript citations and references. And all of each part of this is in more detail on last week's slides. And if you want to, hear Lexi talk through it, she did that on Tuesday, last meeting. That's what I'm trying to say. And remember, this entire thing is gonna be 2 pages, which may kind of sound like a lot. It is not. 2 pages is hard. But it's okay. It'll be good. Believe in you.
After that super quick run through of all of the plans and the formatting, the next step that you really have to do, because you can't really write a research plan without a PI helping you, because this is something that you may have never researched before or something you want to do in the future. So we're just going to review the email structure that you're sending to potential PIs that are at their proposed graduate school that you're going to. And again, we're just going to refresh the structure, where to get some information when you are emailing that person, just to find out more details, and then templates, of course.
Okay. So first thing to talk about is the structure of your email, right? There's 3 main things that you want to ask or talk about in your email. The first one is going to be to introduce yourself and why you are emailing. Who are you? What's your major? Why should they care? And what are you looking to get out of this email? I cannot emphasize that last part enough. That is something that often gets forgotten, or, isn't really actually clear. Make it its own sentence, make it the last sentence of something. Don't hide it within a paragraph. Make it very clear why you want to email them or why you are emailing them. The next part is going to be explaining why you're perfect for the lab. So, talking about why are you interested in them? Do you have similar research interests, goals, broader impact goals? What about it? What is it about their lab that drew you to it? And then, of course, how do your experiences and goals relate to that? You can always, just briefly go into this and say, like, I attached my CV, for their further reflection, but you still want to talk about this part a lot. And then the last thing is, related to that in the first part, like, why are you emailing? But make sure you ask for a meeting in person or over Zoom. Again, like, what do you want out of that email? In this case, we want to talk to them, right? Get to know them, see if they're actually going to be a good fit for you. Because it's just as much you picking your mentor as they get to pick you. Make sure you're very specific and clear. So, at the end of my emails, I usually like to say, very last sentence, would you be willing to meet with me over Zoom to further discuss, etc. Below is my availability, making it as easy and clear for them as you can.
Okay, when you're writing this structure of an email to the PI, a lot of times, in order to figure out if you have similar research interests, you'll have to look at all of their information. So there are a couple different places that you can look to get this information, and they range from a lab website, LinkedIn, talking to grad students, current mentors to see if they've heard about this person or potential advisor, and then news clippings. For some advisors, you won't necessarily have all of these things, but especially from like their lab website or LinkedIn, you want to pay attention to the language that they use in their writing. So if you notice that they use a lot of familiar terminology or jargon to things that you're interested in, you know that that's something that you might be interested in, and their lab might be a good fit for you. On the right side of this slide, I have a screenshot. This is actually this is going to be my mentor for my grad school experience. And this was something that I looked at. This is her lab website that she created. And from just this website that she was able to put together, I chose this mentor not only because of the similar interests. Obviously, she's at one of the schools I wanted to go to, but also because, again, that terminology that she used, I noticed that this advisor used a lot of inclusive language and things like intersectionality, which is one of my research interests, not only professionally, but also on a very personal level. This is something that I want to be involved in. So that's another thing that you can use all these different resources to kind of vet the person and figure out who they are and if they're a good match to you. Going back again to current mentors, if the current field of research that you're in is the same as what you're going to be going into, talking to your mentor and just throwing a couple names out there, seeing if they recognize some of those people is always a great idea. Sometimes they don't recognize them, and that's okay. But sometimes they do. And even better, sometimes when they do recognize those names, they might have like a personal connection of like, hey, oh yeah, I studied with that person in my grad school, or I earned my PhD at the same time as them at the same school. So in talking to your person, or talking to your current PI or mentor, you can find out even more information and also kind of another way to network and a possible closer to connection to mention when you're writing those emails as well.
Can I add something to that last part real fast? Talking to your mentors is so important. I talked to mine about my list that I was considering, and she had already had a good idea of like what was important to me, what I wanted from my career. And she actually told me one of the mentors that I had on my list was not going to be what I needed. And that person actually was not a very great mentor. And that was something I wanted to know now, as opposed to putting it, trying my hardest to get into that lab, because that was my top one at that moment. And yeah, if you don't have the mentor that you think is actually going to be good for you, then that can change your whole experience. So it's always important to talk to your mentors. Hopefully they have a positive relationship, positive experience with the people you're considering. But if they don't, that's also very important to know. And just because they had a bad relationship doesn't mean that you will have one, have a bad relationship with them, but at least you can be aware and make that decision for yourself on what they can or cannot give you as a mentor. Okay. Anyway, sorry for my little tangent add-on. I'm sure these are very familiar, but just, a little reminder, if you're feeling kind of stuck, as you're trying to build your notes and think about how you're going to draft your email, what are you even going to talk about? Why does this person matter? Try mind mapping. So the mind map you see here on the right is one I made for one of the faculty advisors I wanted to work with, Dr. Adrian Steyer. So I broke it down into different parts. And you see, research, skills, mentoring style, my related experiences. And I started writing down, as I looked through his website, as I read papers, what I saw, his interests were, what mattered to him, what skills I saw being used in the lab, like, his students, what they were using, and related them back to things I had done already and seeing like, okay, wait, they do a lot of modeling. Okay, well, I've done ArcGIS, I've done this, I've done, I have this background, like these can relate. I can learn to do that too. And just kind of helps you get an idea of the lab, the people, and help you outline your email. I think that's good.
You didn't talk about this one, Emily, because you actually wrote this.
I guess I'll go over it very briefly. They should have seen this already, but this is one of my examples of an email outline. So if you haven't gotten your emails out yet, I highly recommend making an email template. Makes things a lot easier. You always want to individualize, personalize your email. Excuse me. But a lot of these are going to have a lot of the same bones at the end of the day, right? So by doing this, it gets a lot of that like that thinking out of the way on your phrasing, and you can just fill in the blanks later on for each lab. So for example, mine, it's very simple. Dear blank, my name is Emily Donahue. I'm a senior here, majoring in this. I'm very interested in blank lab, right? I'm going to fill that in. And your work on blank. What are the research themes? I'm going to tell them that I'm interested in, like your work on, ecosystems, your work on behavioral studies, whatever fits in there. Specifically, the blank project stood out to me because of my interest in this. That was how I was, tying in like their work to mine, to my interests, and why it's important to me. And then I get into, I plan to apply to your lab for this at this time. So make sure you're saying, fall semester, you'll be applying this fall semester for the 2025 semester, right? Sorry, it took me a second to think about that. And definitely tell them you're applying for the GRFP. Please tell them you're doing that. That is amazing. That's very impressive. And you're already telling them that, so then they can know, okay, they're already planning this. Maybe I can help them too. It's already, in their mind. And telling them like a little bit why I want to work with them. And then my question, will you be accepting students for fall 2024? Then, I had a big chunk on more of the like why I'm interested in the lab, why I'm qualified. And then my last little bit, again, reiterating what do I want from them? Would you be available to discuss me joining your team? If this is acceptable, I have listed my availability below. I've also attached my CV. You don't need to add your transcript if you want. That's your choice. And thank you. I look forward to hearing from you. I know it's a lot. You can make yours shorter, but it is good to have a lot of that information in there. It's almost like a cover letter sending them. So yeah, there is the full draft. We also have notes there outlining, what you want to do. There's my example. And then Lexi also has an example. And then I think there's another one if you keep scrolling down, Lexi. Yeah, so we made a sample for like going to emailing a grad student or a department head, what those might look like.
Yeah, my example that I put in is actually for an adjunct professor. So sometimes you'll have one of the people I was talking to was not a professor at a school. They were just a researcher that worked with a school. So a lot of times if you have someone like that, you'll really have to email multiple people, because if you want to work with that researcher, not only are you working with that person, but you also need like another person on your master's board to be like that co-mentor with you. So just know that going in, because that was something that I did not. We can totally help you with like structuring those emails or figuring out who like the best person to ask is, but just something to keep in mind. Okay. One quick also mention that I wanted to state about this is when you're choosing a PI too, if there's some things that are very important to you, don't feel like you have to sacrifice those things in order to get closer to your research goals or closer to your research interests. Because for a lot of these, you're looking at graduate schools most of the time for PhDs, and PhDs take many, many years. It is not worth sacrificing some of your mental health in order to get you closer to your goals, though it may be tempting at times. The PI that you choose can have a lot of impact on your entire journey and like things about you graduating. That can be a positive thing. If you have a really great mentor, they can help you and aid you and get you a lot of connections and get you into conferences and amazing. But it can also be very negative. And I definitely know people who have either either left grad school because they were just completely unhappy with the mentor that they had. They loved the school, they loved the research that they were doing, but their mentor just made them so miserable. Like it was just not worth it at that point to continue on. And I've also had people who just decide to finish the PhD or whatever that they're doing, but just completely it ruined the research for them, and it wasn't worth it. So just heavier topics, but some of those things, if you get a bad feeling from a mentor or you don't really trust them and you want to talk to grad students to kind of double check them as well, we recommend doing that because this is someone who will be spending a fair amount of time with over many years. Wow. But let's say you find a good mentor and you have sent them an email. We have some steps, a game plan that can help you figure out what to do once you've sent that email. So our first little game plan that we have assembled for you is once you have sent that initial email asking whatever it may be, if it's asking for a meeting or just introducing yourself, these are some things that you can do while you wait. So we also have a legend. So within each of these things that you can do or focus on, there's things that you can work on for your research plan, your personal statement, and also just that general meeting with your PI. So while you're waiting, one of the things that you can do is mind mapping. So whether that be for your research interest from your research plan, thinking of ideas that you're interested in and can think of possible plan ideas, you can start thinking that, brainstorming, mind mapping, seeing what questions you'd be interested in. Another thing is just mind mapping your personal interest. If you haven't done that yet, sometimes mentors will ask for a personal statement just to know a little bit more about you. It really depends on the mentor. Sometimes they don't need that information, but if you do have some writing samples, sometimes they ask for those. And then, of course, mind mapping some of the interests of the PIs. If you know some of their interest and some of the things that their lab does, great. You can mind map that, see if it overlaps with some of your interests. The second thing you can do is what we like to call quote unquote stalking. Just a little bit of searching on the internet, whether that's building resources for research interests and potential projects that the school has that you're looking to go to, or resources within the lab that you're looking to go into. You can also look at research resources to include in your personal statements. So if you're deciding to do something that has an impact on broader impacts and you're looking for different assessment centers on campus, that's also something you can add in to your personal statements. And then for a PI meeting, just reviewing those publications of the PIs or labs. This can either be projects that the PI you're looking at is working on, or even projects that potential other grad students are working on. Like if there's grad students already in the lab, what they're working on, because those might be projects that you're involved with as you're in the school as well. And then the third thing we have that you can work on is drafting. So once you've moved on from mind mapping, starting to build that outline of the potential research projects, you don't have to have this again. This is just something just to get you better prepared and to working on different things. You can also start to outline your personal statement and then building notes for a meeting with your PI. Just building up the most potential things that you can have on hand to reference when you're talking to the PI and just to get yourself the most prepared you can.
So going on to the next little game plan, you've already had, maybe a couple meetings, maybe just one, with, the potential faculty, and they say, you sound great. Yeah, I'm willing to offer some feedback on your research plan. Here are, some of the things that might be your next steps moving forward. So you'll want to do, a lot of literature review and develop a summary of it. So collection of related papers, to those research interests, to the potential project. Document that summarizes the papers, taking notes on them, even if it's just bullet points, and of course, including the links so you can go back to it. You want to take note of how your PI is helping you with your goals and will in the future specifically with your research plan, because you'll want to talk about that. But in your future goals, you're going to be talking about how your PI is going to be basically the best mentor you can ask for in order to achieve your goals. So start taking note of those as you notice them, and in your talks to them. You also want to start, making sure you finalize and agree upon a topic of interest with the PI. So you'll do that during your meetings, back and forth with them, and then the others are going to be to like back that up too. Another thing you're going to be doing is working on your outline. So after you get a lot of, the lit review done, all of that, have a better idea of what your project is going to entail, then you'll be outlining the project, identifying gaps you need to fill and how. Like we talked about last week. Oh my God, I keep saying last week. On Tuesday, last meeting. They're not going to expect you, like the GRFP, they're not going to expect you to know how to do everything yet. If they did, there's not a point in going to grad school then. You're already a master at it, right? But that doesn't mean that, you can still recognize that those gaps are there, and that you're going to see certain challenges. You can't predict every challenge, but there's some that are going to come. Like for instance, I wanted to map distributions, so I need to learn how to do the random forest modeling and this and that. But I recognize that by talking to my mentors and asking, hey, I'm interested in this. What do I need to learn in order to be able to do that? And they told me. So I looked it up, I researched it, and I added it to my project. That's what we're going to be expecting you to do in your outline. You also want to add notes about other resources from your PI and lab to your future goals, just like I said a moment ago. But thinking about your research plan, but also outside of that. Do you want to become a professor? How is your PI going to help you to do that? Then of course, you're going to review your outlines with the PI during your meetings with them and get feedback. You want to include them as much as they are willing in this entire process. It's okay to ask them, how much are you willing to meet? What can you give? Don't expect them to be able to meet with you every day or anything like that. It might be a meet every couple weeks, once a month, that kind of thing. But honestly, this is going to take you time anyway, so it's good to have that time to get some work done and then ask them to revise and review. From there, that's all we can really tell you to expect. The rest of it is going to be up to your PI. They might have other products, a different kind of plan in mind. Everybody's going to be a little different. This is based off of our experiences, and what we know of the process, what we tend to expect. But that doesn't mean your PI could want something else. So this format was meant to be a little more flexible, give you an idea on what to expect. But no, there's going to be other things in there as well.
Okay, with that, we know it's close to 4:50, but we're going to give you until 4:50 to work on any of the products or brainstorm some of your research interests, or really start building any of those deliverables that we were just talking about in order to prep with meeting a PI. We're going to set the timer. Think about all your different things like mission statement and how you're going to get to all those stages and what skills you may need. But yeah, get to it. We'll come back at 4:50. Also, if you have any questions, please let us know. You can shout it out, put it in the chat, raise your hand, whatever you feel comfortable with, but we will be here. Okay, it's 4:50. I hope you guys got some work done. If you have any small wins, you can put it in the chat or raise your hand or let us know. If you worked on mind mapping, just brainstorming, whatever it may be, let us know because we want to hear some small wins.
I've been trying to find literature on this gene that the potential PI found, but she found the gene and there's not a lot of literature on it. So I'm kind of just waiting for her to respond back to my email so we could talk about it.
Nice. It sounds like good progress still. I mean, even if you can't find too much, finding as much as you can, and then, I mean, then you also, you know that you tried, and so you can talk to her about and even ask, hey, I'm really interested in this. Do you happen to know of any literature? I would love to read up more on it.
I think we're gonna move on to our deliverables. I'll take this one. You want me to? Okay, I can do it since I'm already talking. Just some quick deliverables to go over like every single time we meet. Again, writing those emails to potential faculty, so we've already written those. So that's great. But then you can also work on drafting personal statements, outline of a research plan to potential PIs. Again, unfortunately, it's gonna feel like you're juggling all these things, but there are a lot of things and they all gotta be worked on, unfortunately. But yeah, just keep doing all the work, and it will get done eventually, and you'll have something to turn in October. That's really the goal.
Yeah, we're not expecting you all to like have a full draft of any of these things right now. We know this like time was really accelerated. This is the time we have to work with you all, so we're just trying to give you all the information we possibly can. So now that you have basically everything, it's time to be making your timelines and saying, okay, I want to finish this by this time. Let me go back to the materials that Emily and Lexi made and the slides and all of that, and then we refresh and get it done. That was, just so you don't over stress about having everything done just yet. Um, keep sending those emails out. If you need any help with anything, you can still book appointments with us. Lexi's calendar and mine are both linked there for you. So don't hesitate to reach out. If you want to just send an email first, you can do that. But if you want to quickly review any materials, if you have any questions, if you're just like, I'm so stuck and I don't know, I just need a quick pep talk, go ahead, send us an email, book an appointment. That's what we're here for. So yeah, just keep it in mind.
And I know Emily just talked about setting our own timeline, but we do have this summary one that we have. That what is the different things that we recommend. Um, as you can see, there's the different priorities, times, and finish by. Something that has been on the finish by, but we haven't really talked about a lot, is those letters of recommendation. So I know it says early July, but that means that you really want to start reaching out to people. Again, you can have, I think it's up to 4 people, but they're only going to choose 3 letters to really review and actually read. But you do want to start sending out those emails and getting emails of confirmation that someone will be willing to write a letter of recommendation for you. We did have a slideshow on letters of recommendation as well. So if you need any reminders about how to ask, who you want to ask to get a holistic view of you, all the information is in the slides, but please start getting emails of confirmation about those letters.
And like we keep saying, talk to your mentors. If you're asking them for a letter of rec, talk to them about your statement. See if they're willing to help you, give feedback, review anything, ask about PIs, I'll ask those questions, keep them in the loop. I mean, they're your letter writers, they should be willing to help out just a little bit, at least, hopefully. If they're busy, that's another thing, but they care about you. They want you to succeed, right? They're giving you a letter, so don't be afraid to ask. Next time. Okay, thank you. So next week is our last week of GAP meetings. I know y'all probably so ready to get rid of us, but next week we'll be looking at putting everything we've talked about together. So, we'll go through a couple of like 4 examples on what these finished products look like, and we'll also go through a couple of like tips and tricks on getting this through. Next week is going to be a lot of putting it together. It's a great chance for you to ask questions, just get an idea of, where you're trying to go. What is the point of, the last like 7 weeks of meetings we've been doing.
And then we have our resources, just like always. Um, don't worry, Haley. We'll be around not quite until October, but Emily will be here until September 27th, I believe is the date. But again, that being said, we like all the Gap people in particular, so if you send us an email, we'll still probably respond. But again, if you don't have questions that aren't for specifically for us, we do have a new link for the virtual office hours. The past office hours they had passed, so now they have another one in August on the 12th. So again, if you have any questions that we necessarily can't answer, if they're more discipline specific or some logistical things about the application, please ask them. It's on our Just Right again if you have any questions, and then all the materials are in our drive.
The thing Lexi was just talking about. Yes. So even though next week is our last week of gap, that doesn't mean we don't have more support for you in the next couple of months. I will be here in some capacity until the 27th. Keep in mind, I gotta go get my big girl job now, so I will be a little busier. But I will still be very, happy to review any writing products, help you with the application. You just will need to email me, as opposed to, just like having these kind of set meetings for you to come to. But please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out, book an appointment, anything like that. And if you're trying to book an appointment but no times work, just send me an email. Let's see what else we can find. And then Lexi, sorry, did you want me to say yours or?
Oh no, it's fine. I feel like we said most of it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so other things that are good for resources and other things that aren't necessarily GRFP centric, but we also have the professional and organizational potluck that Emily and I are hosting. I realized I forgot to send out the sign up sheet for that this morning. But I will do that right after this meeting. So if you want, you can join us on July 31st from 2 to 3 p.m. We have a couple things that we have some tips and tricks for like Google Sheets, Google Calendars, Zotero, all of those good things. But if you have tips and tricks as well, please sign up. We would love to know everything. It is potluck, so bring those tips and tricks, but also some food to munch on. We have the flyer right there. The Zoom link is on Canvas, and again, that sign up sheet. We also have the Welcome to Feedback Week, WTF. Again, all the information is on Canvas as well, but we have those 2 sessions for 2 hours each every single day. So come there if you need help. And that's it from us. Thank y'all for coming. Yeah, amazing. Ooh, lemonade's a good idea.
The citrus
Right.
theme that I made makes me want lemonade now. So I
Mm,
think I gotta bring lemonade to the,
lemonade and orange juice, double citrus moment.
vitamin C, very important.
Exactly. No scurvy here.
Unpopular opinion, I actually really like grapefruit juice.
I love grapefruit juice too.
I feel like
It's so
people are
sour.
always like posting on it. I like it.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me because we drink
Thank
pomelos, Emily.
you.
Yeah.
What do you think?
What's that drink? The pomelos?
Do you want to stop the recording?
Sorry, anyone who's watching